Crash fixes, bug fixes, stability-focused overhauls and exciting new changes. Welcome to Devil May Cry 3 Crimson's 0.4 patch, now available on GitHub. Make sure to like and subscribe to this video so you don't miss out on future content. You can also join up my Patreon and Discord server to stay up to date with the latest news. I've also just released a public roadmap for the mod, giving you a clear look at what to expect from our development cycle, and a preview of the exciting new features we're planning. So, let's move on with the video. Hello everyone, this is Birthrage, and this is the patch 0.4 rundown for Devil May Cry 3 Crimson. I'll be trying out this new format for this video. It's going to be a lot more chatty and longer, but the intention here is to give you a lot more insight into every change we make in our development pipeline as a whole. I apologize for the time it has taken for us to deploy this, as it really has been a hectic few months. As some of you may know, this patch was going to be called 0.3c, and it was going to be purely stability focused. We were running 2 development pipelines at the same time, and one was focusing on 0.3c and the other was focused on 0.4. However, 0.3c ended up getting much bigger than what we initially envisioned, through the sheer amount of stuff that needed adjustments and the existing bugs that needed fixing. So I saw it fit to take more time with it and make it a greater patch than it was at the beginning. So 0.3c became 0.4, and the pipeline in development patch became 0.5. Stay tuned because there might be quite a few surprises here. It's really not just a stability-focused patch. There is quite a few new exciting additions here, as you see throughout this video, as I go through each one of the changes. So starting off with crash fixes. Crashes are our biggest enemy, both in development side and on the player side, and I felt like something needed to be done urgently regarding game stability. This will be extremely important to the longevity of the mod. We could have had the most fun mod in existence, right? But if it keeps crashing, then a lot of players and potential players will be turned off by that. So it's really not great. Huge shout out to Waifu Runs for helping us out with some of these. He made some of these crashes a lot more obvious because, as we'll see here, the first 2 occur only on new game saves. So if you load up the game again after crashing and try loading up the mission again, it will work correctly. But for speedrunning purposes, this can absolutely kill an entire run. So these were very high priority for us. Fixed an issue causing crashes at the start of Mission 5 on New Game, inherited from DDMK. And fixed an issue causing crashes at Mission Start on New Game every 5 or 6 missions completed, also inherited from DDMK. These were caused by the actor system, aka Crimson Character System, or CCS for short, that's what we call it, that was developed by Serpentium. Unfortunately for us, a lot of the CCS code is very obtuse and complex and not very well documented, and Serpentium just isn't around. So fixing these issues were not so trivial. The first one kind of was, but the second one I had to spend quite a few nights debugging code to discover what was going wrong, so it was a really hard fix. Apparently it was the animation file loading when instancing playable characters. It was getting corrupted on its indexes every 5 or 6 missions. Something in memory was causing indexes to go null, which caused a crash. So to solve it, I had to pretty much make my own code for instancing the animation files each time it would load. Believe it or not, that was actually the easier route than the alternatives. But the great thing is that we haven't had any more problems since then, so great stuff, crash fixed. And this was very much the most egregious crash we've had so far, so that's big, really big. Fixed crashes when entering portals after having summoned doppelganger, inherited from DDMK. We've solved this one while working on a really big new secret feature for 0.5. Stay tuned for that. It's really, really big, but I can't talk about it just yet. This crash is mostly felt on the chessboard fight at mission 18. If you summon Doppelganger during the fight, there's a great possibility you're going to crash when entering the portal at the end. Well, not anymore. Fix a crash with LDK with chess pawns and knights. Both of those get multiplied by much lower amounts if they get multiplied a lot. Yeah, unfortunately, chess pawns and knights won't get multiplied anymore to stupid amounts on LDK, and that's a shame. The crash is fixed, so hopefully LDK becomes a much better experience overall. Moving on. Fix a crash with co-op multiplayer due to the new AI targeting system. I'm gonna go over this particular change on the co-op multiplayer section down here, as there are a lot of changes coming there. Added a new crash handler to a new version of our injection DLL. Generates detailed crash logs and a crash dump every time the game ends up crashing. This will be extremely helpful to solve future stability issues. Thanks Deep Dark Poster for this feature. This will be extremely huge going forward because our and your bug reports can be a lot more detailed, and we can have a snapshot of the game code right when it crashed with a crash dump. So hopefully we'll have a much easier time fixing any crashes that might show up or may arrive in the future. Thanks Deep Dark Poster, you are the GOAT. Moving on to extra difficulty. Forced difficulty option has been added. It's useful for those who want Dante must die on Bloody Pass from the get-go. This was really heavily requested, so I'm really happy about putting this in finally. Moving on to progression. Fix style levels disappearing after upgrading them the regular way instead of buying. So what would happen is that if you leveled up your style the good old-fashioned way by killing enemies, when you died or reload or transitioned into a new room, your style level would completely reset and revert backwards. So it was really, really annoying. This was reported several times. And now it's fixed. Fixed Dante's weapon progression while Vergil is being played as player 1 in Dante's campaign. I was watching a stream alongside Charlie. I don't remember who was playing exactly, just that player 1 was Vergil and player 2 was Dante. And they were up to after Beowulf in the campaign, but unfortunately Dante had only E&I and Rebellion unlocked. It really was just those 2 weapons. So it was real unfortunate because if they wanted to fix that issue, they would have to start the campaign all over again to unlock Dante's weapons with Dante on player 1. So that was not ideal, and that's how I discovered this bug was the thing, and now it's not. Moving on. All of Dante's weapons are now unlockable from Vergil's campaign. Pretty much the reverse on the previous change. Hopefully you guys can unlock weapons properly regardless of the campaign or the character you choose. We're really striving for a campaign agnostic DMC3, and this was a design leftover from DDMK, but it was incomplete there. We're sticking with that design choice, and we want to make sure it works correctly, and this is going to be very big for that. Vanilla unlocked weapon slots will now be properly paired with the CCS game modes unlocking. No more locking out of 2 weapon slots if you progress the game through Crimson mode. This was happening since DDMK, where if you progress the game through with CCS on, like with Crimson mode or Style Switcher mode, what would happen is that when you reverted back to vanilla mode, you would find that your second weapon slot, both for guns and devil arms, they simply wouldn't exist. And this was causing some serious problems. Even on Crimson mode, particularly later on in the game, when you're fighting Arkham and the game reverts back to vanilla automatically, you had to fight him with only Rebellion and Ebony and Ivory and no other weapon. And that was just a serious pain. It made the fight even worse than it already is. And it was really just a pain for those who really like switching back and forth to vanilla mode. Some of you in the community were resorting to fiddling with the debug menu or editing saves for this to be fixed. But no fret, your worries are over. This issue is completely gone. Even your equipped weapons on CCS will now carry over properly to vanilla, so awesome stuff. Character switching now defaults to off. Character switching is obviously a great feature, but it's kind of niche even for advanced players. So it made sense for me to keep this off by default. If you want it, you can just go and check the box and there you go, same as before. It still works just as well as before. Moving on to general bug fixes. Mission timer will now work correctly at any FPS target, and secret mission timers will now work correctly at any FPS target. These are to make sure timers work correctly at any frames per second setting, so it's a huge win for high frame rate support. This was annoying to do, but it was needed, and it's done. Cerberus is now properly affected by the enemy damage multiplier cheat alongside one hit kill. A huge shout out to Hitchhiker for doing this one. One hit kill working on Cerberus was huge for us developers to test out and fix the aforementioned crashes, because otherwise we would have to kill Cerberus from 100 to 0 each time we wanted to test those, and that severely slowed down the process. And no, it doesn't. I think the only enemy left to fix with the enemy damage multiplier is, I think, a Leviathan. Yeah, Leviathan hard. One hit kill doesn't work on it, I think, but it will get fixed in the future. Unknown weapon equips no longer occur in the Crimson overlay, can no longer save loading exploits to unlock Dante's weapons earlier. You could exploit this previously to unlock Dante's weapons earlier than you should, but I didn't see anyone doing this. But it's a huge UI thing. I'm glad to be fixing this one. Divinity statue sharp menu can now only close after a 0.2 second cooldown after opening up to prevent pop-in and pop-out issues. This fixes an issue when you would try to open the sharp menu and it just closed out immediately. This no longer happens anymore. Added DXGI flip model setting to system, changes exclusive full screen behavior to be similar to the one used in Special K, hopefully solves Alt-Tab issues. This is an experimental fix for the Alt-Tab issue. A lot of you were complaining about this since launch. Hopefully this gets solved, at least for most of you. I developed this, but I can't really test it because the issue doesn't occur with me, so please let me know how it goes. LDK and derivatives. It's no longer active during secret missions. The enemies won't get multiplier. When you're in a secret mission, they won't get multiplied. That's great. And fix a crash with chance spawns. See crash fixes that I talked about earlier. These were the largely reported LDK issues, so hopefully now they're gone and you guys can actually complete the entire game with LDK on and enjoy it properly. Our internal testing showed good results, so fingers crossed, no more LDK issues. Must style. Style armor, when active, being in DT will shield you from losing your style rank, and style rank HUD colors will change appropriately to indicate whether you are in style rank threshold or not. Both of these changes were conceptualized by Charlie, and the implementation of the style armor was done by Cyan. A huge thanks to them for these. I think these will improve most style mode a substantial amount, so I'm very happy with these changes. Huge shout out to both of them. Moving on to co-op multiplayer. These are pretty huge because I've wanted to improve co-op because it has been riddled with issues since launch and it's such a big part of Crimson as a whole. The feedback from the community has been hugely useful to make these changes. It's just a part of the beta testing pipeline where without this amount of data, we would never have been able to identify these issues in the first place. So thank you all for your feedback. Improved AI targeting system stability so it no longer crashes the game at random times. Basically, previously you had a chance of either freezing or crashing the game every time you killed an enemy when playing co-op. It pretty much terrorized any multiplayer session. I saw this occurring during multiple streams, so I'm really glad this is fixed. A lot less crashes on 0.4. A lot less. Hopefully all of them gone. Arachnes, blood goyles, or chest pieces, soul eaters, and enigmas can now all target secondary players. This basically means every regular enemy can target secondary players now, which is very huge. These were absolutely difficult to do. Enemies in DMC3 are coded in a way that is hugely inconsistent. For the Hell's enemies, it was quite trivial to do. It really was just one address that matched the player or entity you wanted them to target. But for many other regular enemies, such as the blood goyles or the chest pieces, such address doesn't really exist on that class definition. So for each of those, we needed to find every attack they do, and for every attack it has a different instruction to it, and we gotta study each instruction to find where it is defined, the target player they're aiming for. Only then we can actually patch it. I took quite a few weeks doing these, so I hope this improves the co-op experience quite a bit. The AI behavior when switching between targets is still quite simplistic, which I hope to improve on future patches. It really is just they target the closest one. Boss Vergil can now fully target secondary players after using Trick and Judgment Cut. This is the same as the previous change, but for Boss Vergil, he now can target secondary players fully also, which is awesome. If there's a boss to be working fully correctly, that's got to be Vergil, right? I hope to be able to make this for more bosses in the future, perhaps all of them. Even if they're even more difficult to do than the regular enemies because they have more attacks. I just really got to find the time to really dedicate myself fully to these, and that's hard because there's a lot of features we want to be working on. Bug fix fixed an issue causing multiplayer style rank meter to be stuck at 400F. So this was a really funny bug which was causing getting S ranks on multiplayer easier than it should. Basically, you would get a rank and it would refuse to decrease with time, and it would be kind of stuck at this 400F range. Now they behave fully as they should, with all players being able to influence it properly. Secondary players can now affect total stylish points. Previously, only player 1's damage appliance could influence that, so I'm happy to be making this change. The added consistency is great. Added a multiplayer damage scaling option. Default is on, required for Crimson mode. Modifies enemy damage taken multiplier based on how many players are active. 2 players is 0.7, 3 players 0.5, and 4 players is up to 0.4 damage scaling. This is going to be an absolute game changer for the whole co-op experience. Difficulty will be higher, of course, but hopefully it gets more fun as well because you have a lot more opportunities to combo enemies together when you deal less damage overall. Hopefully multiplayer gets more balanced too. Let me know how it goes for you. Moving forward to multiplayer camera. So this is the start of a huge swath of camera changes that are coming in this patch, and they're great. I think I'm pretty happy with them. MP Cam will now take enemies into account for its positioning as well as players. Previously only players would affect it. This will make enemies appear more on screen, which will be highly useful on multiplayer. Fix an issue causing MP Cam distance management to not work correctly on vanilla game presets. Previously, if you were on any of the vanilla camera presets, the MP camera would not display correctly on its distance. For some reason, it was a bug. Now that's fixed, so even if you're playing on vanilla camera presets, the multiplayer camera will display correctly. That's great. Fixed instances of MP camera spawning inside Dante and Vergil. I'm gonna miss this one a bit. It was really funny. The camera would just immediately spawn inside of Dante's chest. It was really odd, but I liked it. But it's gone now. increased player 1 distance threshold. The explanation is the distance from player 1 it takes for the MP cam to revert to focusing only on player 1. Increase for several arenas, including Agni and Rudra boss room, Vergil 1, 2, 3 boss rooms, and the Damned chessboard boss room. This will improve the MP camera flickering back and forth a lot on these arenas. Previously, like, if player 2 distance itself like a little bit from player 1, the camera would like flicker back to player 1, and in some areas this wasn't quite intentional. So this will be really felt. I think this will be really great for these arenas. Hopefully the combat will be a lot more visible as a whole in the multiplayer for you. And camera. We're bringing out finally the big guns on this patch. Force third-person camera has been renamed to third-person camera. Third-person camera will now utilize a hybrid system, changing itself to a fixed camera on specific room sections for better visibility or platforming. We've carefully chosen these as specific sections to leverage the fixed camera's advantage, better exploration, cinematic experience, and third-person camera's advantage, better combat, freedom of movement. Many thanks to the Hitchhiker for this feature. So this was really heavily worked on by the Hitchhiker, so please thank him. He developed the feature and then he painstakingly went through the entire game analyzing each camera angle to see which would fit better on each scenario. I really was just responsible for the revision here, so great shout out to him. This will make the third-person camera a lot more viable as a whole and a lot more polished, especially on missions like Mission 9, where you had a lot of guidance from the fixed camera to see where you needed to go. Certain spots in which you wouldn't spot a key item with a third-person camera, or the laser puzzle, in which it was really difficult to tell how the pieces were arranged in third person. Now that's all fixed, because it will just switch back to the fixed camera dynamically. We're trying to bring out the best of both worlds here in this option, and we're very confident on the setting overall now. Feedback will be greatly appreciated. I hope you like this one. We took some time with this. Boss cameras on third-person camera mode restored, except for Beowulf and Arkham, and also I think perhaps Agni and Rudra is also included in this exception. This was heavily requested by a lot of people. Most of you didn't quite enjoy the fully unlocked camera for fights like Cerberus, so we're reverting a lot of these back to vanilla. So great news. Vanilla camera preset reworked to not change invert X and sensitivity settings, and also keep the locked off camera option. So it didn't make much sense for me to revert these changes fully back to vanilla, as they were mostly quality of life. Most people will appreciate the non-inverted, the non-axis X inverted camera, and a bit more sensitivity, as well as being able to rotate the camera freely, even if you are playing on the vanilla preset. I think this makes a lot more sense. Not much else to say here. Vanilla improved camera preset reworked to vanilla with third-person camera preset for those who want to keep vanilla camera's properties with the new third-person camera mode. Now vanilla improved is just the vanilla preset with the third-person camera option ticked on. No FOV changes, and the reason why will become clear in the next few changes, because the Crimson preset is going to be closer to what vanilla improved used to be. Vertical tilt setting now defaults to vanilla instead of closer to ground, even on Crimson preset. So this will be the understated big change of this patch. It's so small, but it's so significant. This change is going to be absolutely massive. And the reason why I believe that is because I think I missed the mark with the closer to ground option. It made the combat feel a little bit more cinematic, but with a trade-off of making combat a lot harder to see, especially in rooms with full of enemies or entities, or in modes like LDK or co-op, where the number of things on screen is a lot higher than normal, and spotting your player character became much harder to see because of the new angle. Also, a lot of the environments on DMC3 were made with that vanilla angle in mind, such as the railings at Love Planet. Those would obscure your view a lot more with closer to ground. So it really wasn't an optimal setting. It will still exist for those who prefer it. It just won't be the default anymore, and I think I'm happier with that. Follow-up speed now defaults medium instead of high. This is a minor one, pretty much the same reason as the previous change. Trying to bring the camera a bit more in line with vanilla, keeping the strengths of the Crimson preset with the strengths of the vanilla setting, and just combining both into one ultimate setting. Dynamic camera distance setting no longer expands distance when jumping out of combat. Not much to say about it. Panoramic camera is now on by default, Crimson preset. So after combining all of the previous changes, I've observed that the panoramic camera became a lot better and a lot smoother, and I think it's going to be the go-to now. You can have a really solid bird's eye view of the combat. Enemies get a little bit more aggressive because they're in vision a lot more, and I think that's beneficial for the game balance, considering all of the new tools for both Dante and Vergil that we give out on the Crimson mode. And I think it's a lot more dynamic too. It feels quite a bit like the DMC5 camera, but maybe even better. If you don't like the more distant kind of camera this option brings, you can just turn it off. But I think it's going to be really solid going forward. I think you guys will like it. Bug fix. Fix an issue causing panoramic camera going into the shadow realm in certain locations. So this is just pretty much solidifying the panoramic camera as the go-to option. Now all issues with it have been fixed, hopefully. Multiplayer camera option phased out of the overlay GUI. There was not a whole lot of reason for this option to exist in the first place, so I'm taking it off. It will turn on automatically whenever you're playing multiplayer or whenever you summon Doppelganger in single player. And that's it, there's not much more to it. It's just a beneficial option that I think it should just be turned on all the time. So I think the option was a bit redundant. Moving on to general gameplay. Training wheels are off. Like the 0.3b patch, the previous one, we are nerfing this further. Increased enemy juggle time nerf from 15F to 14F. For reference, the default enemy juggle time is 10. This is mostly an experimental change. I want to make sure our combat is as tight as it can possibly be, and making that closer to the vanilla game might just do the trick. Making air combos require that utmost amount of precision to be executed properly, but I also want to balance this out so I can make sure the increased juggle time creates more opportunities for long extended combos, which was the intention all along.
I believe 14F might just be the value we were looking for. On my testing, it feels just right. So we will monitor this very closely. This is a small change, but it will be felt, and it's a far cry from the initial launch build value, which was 20F, and it was really strange to play. Enemies would simply not fall off. You would hit them, and they would stay in the air for extended periods of time, and it didn't feel correct, in my opinion. So we're trying to distance ourselves from that kind of gameplay and balance out the challenge of combat with the increased accessibility Crimson brings, which is very much in line with my goals with this mod. Moving on to Dante, so many changes. It surprises even myself. Starting off with, I think the biggest addition on this patch, it really is. Ground Trick added lock on plus back to forward plus tile was while on Trickster executes it. Well, this wasn't supposed to be in this patch, but we went and did it anyway. I remember Hitch was trying to mess with Trick for the super secret feature we're working on for 0.5, I already mentioned that. But that, alongside the research from Cyan and my propensity to make a hack out of everything, we've managed to achieve Ground Trick way before the allotted time I was predicting it would occur. For those who don't know, Ground Trick is a move from DMC5, which functions similarly to Air Trick, in which you teleport towards an enemy. But with this move, you teleport towards the ground next to an enemy. So its uses vary between being a gap closer or like a way to quickly go towards the ground while comboing an enemy in the air, similarly to Downertia. And you can catch the enemy in the fall, in the place where it's going to fall. I hope you guys use and abuse the hell out of this, and I predict combo potential within Crimson's Dante will go through the roof. Please have fun. We've had a lot of fun adding this to the game. It's going to be so huge. Please surprise me, people. Air Rising Dragon Whirlwind replaced by Air Rising Dragon Launch. I'm sorry for fans of Air Rising Dragon Whirlwind, but it really had to go. It just did too much for how easy it was to set up the ability. It lifted enemies too high, it did absolutely disgusting amount of damage even after the nerf, and it was just too spammable. So we're replacing it with Air Rising Dragon Launch, which is a far more contained version of the ability, and it still works very well. For those playing DMD, this might be an advantage because Launch only does 1 tick of damage and 1 tick of stun appliance instead of multiple appliances and ticks, which might make DMD play more consistent within Crimson mode, which is a very nice bonus. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, pretty much. Aerial Rave, Air Flicker, Skydance, Aerial Tweaks all combined into one Aerial Moves Tweaks gameplay setting. This is very nice for UI consistency and ease of use. Aerial Rave with Tweaks gravity has been changed slightly to account for weights a bit more. This will make the new Aerial Rave gravity quite a bit closer to vanilla. But don't worry, Star Raves will be unchanged. They will still be viable, unlike vanilla. Air Flicker with Tweaks gravity has been changed slightly to account less for weights. This will make the Air Flicker gravity closer to vanilla, in that it makes a lot simpler to use. The weights were coming in too strong previously before, which make the move it made the move kind of counterintuitive to use, so I think this will be highly positive overall. Dante is now able to buffer trick moves through Air Stinger, and Dante is now able to jump or air high cancel Air Stinger. This will be absolutely huge for Dante players because Air Stinger will be a lot more viable, especially on DMD, because you can jump cancel Air Stinger before the knockback applies, but after the damage and stun or displacement appliance is applied. So it makes the move a lot more versatile as a whole. Absolute huge win for Air Stinger. DT infused Royal Guard, normal block DT consumption nerfed from 1500 to 2000. So from 1.5 bars to 2 bars of 2 runes of DT. DT infused Royal Guard, normal block Royal Gauge gain nerfed from 700 to 100. For reference, vanilla is 300. So an absolutely massive nerf. These were massively needed to ensure game balance as a whole with DT infused Royal Guard turned on. I set out to do this option to encourage players to use Royal Guard more freely and experiment with it more, because the vanilla Royal Guard system was really punishing, but I did not intend this to be a free win button. And in certain circumstances, this was making some fights a lot easier than intended, because you could just tank a lot of hits with normal block, just holding the Royal Guard button down without any timing. And you would accumulate a lot of Royal Gauge and do tons of damage with it, and this will no longer be the case. It means that normal blocks will be a more defensive maneuver instead of like an offensive one, and it will have clear cost now, which was the original intention all along. Moving forward to Downertia, mechanic change from occurring on the next move after spending 0.7 seconds on air flicker or skydance to occurs on the next move before 0.3 seconds of air flicker as skydance uptime. Downertia no longer breaks after JCing or air hiking, but no longer accumulates to moves after the next one, so it combos with the previous change. And it's now a checkbox, fully optional. This is going to be massive for those who really enjoyed employing Downertia on their combos. I think there's quite a few prominent people in our Discord server who really enjoyed Downertia. So the goal here was to make the mechanic better for those who really use it, and for those who really don't care for it but were accidentally triggering it. Making it trigger by swapping moves rapidly up front instead of having to wait for a charge time makes a world of difference on making the mechanic more intuitive to use and reduce accidental usage of it. The only potential downside here is that you can no longer accumulate the Downertia for like 2 consecutive moves and only apply it afterwards. Sorry folks, this will no longer be possible. That said, I think this will be a highly positive change for those who don't like Downertia altogether, and for those who do, because it will be a lot more intentional now, a lot more player agency involved. And for those who don't like it, you can just turn it off, right? So that's a win-win for both situations. Improved cancels. Ebony and Ivory air normal shots can now be Royal cancelled and use Royal Magnetism. Amazing news for those who really like using Royal Guard to modulate their height, and Royal Magnetism to invert the inertia direction to forward. Maybe it's kind of abusable, but we'll see. I think this will be really neat. Really neat. Improved cancels. As Swordmaster moves can only be cancelled after 0.25 seconds of execution time. This is unlikely to be felt at all. This is really just a change to prevent real cancelling from feeling too abusive. There's not much else to it. Improved cancels, improved Skydance trick cancelling, making Skydance Star Raving more consistent with the other moves. Nice buff overall. Sky Launch Air Taunt setting has been added to the Crimson Overlay. Finally, a lot of you have been asking this since launch, so I'm happy to be putting this finally into the game. So you can just disable it if you don't like it, or you need select for something else. Bug fix. Downertia occurring during Skydance immediately after another move, not following the aforementioned rules. This was a completely unintentional bug, as it made Downertia even more confusing than it already was. A lot of you were asking why this was happening. I simply had no answer other than it's a bug. Some of you were actually using this in their favor in really intelligent ways during combos, and somehow you made this look really good. I almost feel bad taking it out, but there's just no place for inconsistency regarding the mechanics here. So it had to go. Bug fix. Flicker ground vertical can now be held or extended during Hold to Crazy combo. Very few of you actually noticed this, and it just went completely over our heads when we were developing Hold to Crazy combo. It really was a really easy thing to fix technically, but I just pointed that out to Cyan and he just went, oh, I didn't even remember this existed, and personally I didn't either. But it's fixed now and it can properly extend Flicker's duration by holding down the button, and that duration depends on how high your style rank is, exactly how it works on the vanilla game. So I think Hold to Crazy combo is now fully feature complete. Very good. Bug fix. Royal Release no longer reverses Dante's direction towards an enemy. This was extremely annoying every time it happened, and I thought I had it fixed last patch, but it didn't quite work. Now it does work and has been tested out properly. Royal Release is back to normal. Very nice. Bug fix. Sky Launch Air Taunt can no longer be executed inside staggered in state event. So what will happen here is that if you got staggered in the air and you were inside that staggered animation and you couldn't do anything, you could simply press taunt and you would immediately air taunt, and you could cancel out both the stagger animation and the state, meaning you could ignore the stagger completely. It was just extremely broken. I'm so glad to be fixing this one. I think very few of you actually knew this, but it was just a matter of time. Bug fix. Air Slash no longer gets locked out on Swordmaster level 2. This was really my bad. Messing with unlockable moves requires messing with a string of bits that each determines every move you have currently unlocked. This is called expertise values. And messing with those require using bitwise operators, and it can be very finicky and very bug prone. So messing with these expertise values is what caused this bug to happen in the first place, and that's totally my responsibility. This is also the reason why we don't alter the order of leveling up moves with things like Sword Pierce with Dante Macabre. And that's just because it's too bug prone and very easy to mess up.
and that's why I just prefer to leave that quiet. Speak of the devil, another swap option added. Swap hammer volcano inputs added, makes hammer be lock-on style forward and volcano lock-on style back. This will swap the order in which you unlock both moves. The reason why the swap occurs is pretty much what I've just explained previously. But this option should help out a lot of people who are having trouble with executing the new hammer input. And in hindsight, it was really hard to keep it on lock-on style back. It was just so hard to reliably execute it and keep on jump cancelling hammer onto enemies, because the back input can send you backwards because of the inertia. Even if I cut the inertia from hammer, you would still slightly go backwards because of the inertia prior to executing the move. And it just made hammer super hard to use and super hard to be consistent with. So I think this will really help out. I know a lot of you would rather it be swapped entirely with the tornado input, but then again, this only cause tornado to go always backwards because it also uses inertia, so that wouldn't be ideal. If you really want the old hammer input back, you can just turn off the tornado option. But I think this swap option will be a pretty good solution to this problem, hopefully. And hammer is going to be back. Bug fix. DT explosion no longer will regenerate DT after being released. A lot of you noticed this one, and it was messing up balance completely. It was really hard to know what was causing this bug, but once we identified the issue, it was really an easy fix. I believe it was some register in one of the assembly scripts we have that wasn't being restored properly. We fixed that, and I've made a big pass on every single assembly script we have to make sure this problem doesn't occur again. So very nice. So moving on to Vergil. Less changes than Dante, but still quite exciting. Few changes here. Vergil is now able to cancel Air Stinger with Dark Zatrix. Dark Zatrix cancelable. And Vergil is now able to jump cancel Air Stinger. This is a really exciting change, just like Dante's Air Stinger. This will make it so Force Edge is a more versatile weapon in the air, and this will actually be more powerful than Dante's version, since Vergil's Air Stinger travels a lot more than Dante's. So you can utilize this to kind of kidnap enemies by spamming Air Stinger and jump cancelling it, and it travels. You travel alongside the enemy and you can jump cancel it before the knockback occurs. It's kind of abusable, but it's really cool. I hope you guys will like it. I really like that. Vergil's Downertia has been changed to function similarly to Dante's new mechanic, executing another move before about 0.35 seconds of executing Lunar Phase or Air Taunt Rising Sun will send you downwards quickly. Jump cancelling won't interrupt this behavior, and Downertia setting is optional for Crimson mode. Again, same as Dante, but with some slight differences. I want to highlight this about 0.35 seconds of execution time, and that's because it's 0.35 seconds for Lunar Phase and actually 0.4 seconds for Air Taunt Rising Sun. And the reason why is just because these timings just felt a lot more right to me during testing. They have more time than Dante, but they just feel great. This will be a highly beneficial change. Downertia on Vergil, I think, is even cooler than with Dante, in my opinion. And previously, there wasn't much of a choice. You would go downwards 100% of the time if you jump cancelled Lunar Phase or Air Taunt Rising Sun. And now you have a choice if you execute Downertia or not. Again, increasing player agency is very much one of my goals with this. I think this will be a very good iteration of Downertia. Hopefully you guys like it. Air Taunt Rising Sun setting has been added to the Crimson overlay. Just like Dante, Air Taunt now optional. And there's also the bug fix. The Air Taunt can no longer be executed inside staggered stays event, just like Dante. And this is really exciting. Trick up when not locked on option added. Default is on to help players with jumping obstacles and exploration. Very much inspired by DMC5's controls. I'm proud to be including this one. It will help a lot of players on platforming with Vergil. Plus, it feels more intuitive this way. One very good observation is that lock-on forward style trick-up input will still work correctly, even with this option turned on. So really, you'll be getting the best of both worlds. And if you don't like it, you can just turn this off. It's completely optional. So very good. I wanted to be adding this since launch. Now I'm doing it. Sound. I know a lot of you really enjoyed my voice lines that I had recorded, but now they have been re-recorded by yours truly, Birthrage, and mixed by Tehan. I'm super happy with the feedback on the previous voice lines, but I felt that I really wanted to give these another shot just for the sake of improving the audio quality, because I felt this was one area we could have improved massively, and I think we did. We achieved it. I think these sound even better than the old one. Hopefully you guys will enjoy this new take. I really had a blast doing it, and I'm pretty happy with the results. Please let me know what you think of it. Yeah, it sounds great. Style switching taunt animations in-game voice lines no longer overlap with the style switching VO. So previously, when you execute style switching when you're standing still, Dante does that little taunt animation. But it also fires up the in-game voice lines for the taunt. And that was not intentional. It was just one of the things that we made, the animations that we made before the launch, but I didn't have enough time to polish before the release. So I'm glad to have had the time now to properly address this issue and fix it. Now the style switching voice lines can breathe properly and do their work by themselves, which is awesome. No longer you have like two voices playing at the same time, which was kind of weird. 3D audio effect for the new SFX has had its positional accuracy improved. This only affects the new sound effects added on the Crimson. For those who hadn't noticed, and I wouldn't have blamed you because it wasn't really good, we have a pseudo 3D audio system for those audio effects, but it wasn't very accurate or good before. Now I can confidently say these sound a lot better and more accurate, so I hope you enjoy it. Particularly the style switching voice lines, you can see how much Dante's position affects how the audio plays, and I think it's a nice addition. Sounds good. Audio transition from mission ambient music to divinity statue greatly improved, making sure the original feel of the game gets preserved, even though we're not happy with the current shop UI. And you see, one of the plans within our roadmap is to completely overhaul the shop UI in the future. Hopefully in the new feature. Gain clear
song restored. I'm really glad to be fixing this one. I know a lot of you have been missing that piano piece at the end of the game quite a bit. It was not my intention to have that removed, so I'm happy to be restoring it. Style rank announcer default cooldown increased from 20 seconds to 30 seconds. And new option added. Only reset announcer when hit mimics DMC5 behavior, where the announcer will only truly reset when its timer has run out and you have been hit by an enemy. With these, I hope to be improving the announcer frequency, because I think it was firing a bit too much before, too frequently. Hopefully now we can make the times where the announcer shouts out feel more impactful and less straining, which is the very reason why I think Capcom implemented the DMC5 announcer cooldown the way they did it, needing you to get hit first for them to repeat the lines. This will probably make the announcer a lot better when you're just practicing around Crimson, which is a big plus. New option added, DMC3 style switch SFX option. So pretty much that clang sound, that sword clash sound that would occur when you switch styles on the Nintendo Switch version. I'm happy to be putting this one out. It sounds really crunchy, really immediate, but it's not default, but you can easily switch it out. Some of you, I noticed that some of you have been asking about that. Some of you were even researching about this. I've had to pretty much pull out the original function for playing sound effects and search the sound effect within DMC3 sound banks, which was kind of time consuming, but it's done. Moving on to game modes, required gameplay cheats options for the currently selected game mode will now have an indicator on the Crimson overlay alongside their names to make it clear which options you can mark or unmark before turning it into custom mode. Huge UI clarity change. Huge, huge, huge. This is also a thing I've wanted to do since launch, but didn't have the time to do so. This will make it a lot more clear which options are mandatory to be on or off for a certain game mode to remain enabled before it reverts back to custom mode. And this is something that wasn't very clear before, even for us developers. As you can see on the next change, swap dense PS gameplay option is no longer required to be on for Crimson or Style Switcher modes. This wasn't supposed to be mandatory before, but we didn't know it was. Unless there's something outright telling you which options are mandatory, you are basically doing guesswork at that point, and I really wasn't satisfied with that, so I'm glad to be changing it for the better. Next one is Vergil's Quicksilver style is no longer required to be off for Crimson mode. I've noticed a lot of you really enjoy Quicksilver on Vergil, and though I agree, it does make sense for him to move so fast you can't even see what he's doing, right? That's the whole thing with his Iaido fighting style, where he can go from a neutral stance to an attacking position in a blink of an eye. So it makes a lot of thematic sense. But something about having Vergil switch styles didn't quite feel right to me, and I think he needs to be different from Dante in that regard. That said, I just threw in the towel and just made it so you can enable that and still have Crimson mode turn on, because why not? Further down the line, I plan to take Vergil's Quicksilver and turn it into a new mechanic for him, something that you could activate on a press of a button, and it could be kind of a mini Quicksilver thing that would activate on only one move. It could be based off of charges or something. I'm still planning around what this mechanic should be and how we could implement it. It's still really, really early, but I think at least time dilation could be a really cool name for it. But while this doesn't exist. This is pretty much me just saying, use quicksilver as much as you want, have a blast with it. I don't really care. It just won't be a default thing. Also, it makes Vergil even more broken, but never mind that. He's already just extremely broken. I don't think this will make much difference anyway in terms of balance. Weapon wheel. Small visual changes plus rendering code rewritten by darkness, texture loading greatly optimized, and it will no longer cause stutters when loading a level, switching characters, or switching weapon loadouts. This is really big for game optimization. Previously, you could notice some stutters when changing characters or when you switch weapons on the loadout menu while the game was still running. The reason for that was not the game loading up something, it was pretty much just the weapon wheel having to reload the textures again. Now, all the textures are loaded up on boot time. Maybe this introduces a slight downside of having slightly longer boot times to the game, but that's very negligible and a lot more preferable to stuttering in-game or when loading up levels. Darkness did such an amazing job on this one. He is pretty much our go-to renderer fixer guy. He's the author of the original weapon wheel rendering code, so I'm glad he was able to pull this one out of his hat again. Character switching, bug fix. Switching no longer inverts inertia direction or rotation. Huge win for those who enjoy character switching. This was really annoying before. We hope to continually improve this down the line. Crimson effects, bug fix, DT explosion effects interrupt properly after dying. Pointed out by multiple people and actually really funny. Fixing this means a much higher degree of polish for the effects, which is very nice. Crimson HUD added mission time and display with 3 settings: off, only in Bloody Palace, which is the default, and always. I made this option thinking of people who really like to grind out those S ranks for the missions or speedrunners. This will be really, really useful to some of you. Plus, we get to flex the fact that timers are fixed on any frame rate target, so win-win. This becomes on by default when you're playing on Bloody Palace, which I think will be extra useful to gauge your progress within it over time. Added stylish points display. Another thing that I think will really help out the S rank mission result grinders. I'm super happy about this one. The HUD looks really good. Even if it exposes some of the weirdness and how stylish points are calculated within the game. It's just one of those things from Devil May Cry 4 onwards that is a lot more useful than it initially seems. And it's quite felt when you don't see it. Super nice. Super, super nice. I'm super happy about this one. Red Orb Counter has been updated to use DMC3's original font. Many thanks to Leanan Lobington for this feature. So ever since Leanan joined our development circle, we've been achieving some great results on integrating our current art style with the vanilla games. So that's the thing, right? Crimson's idea isn't to replace the original art style of the game, but more like enhance it and bring it more in line with modern sensibilities, and have a modern feel to it, but still keep the original feel. So this is a great change going forward with this new approach. The new Red Orb counter looks identical to the old one, but it looks enhanced and better positioned and scale within the screen. Also, it uses the new Red Orb counter icon, which displays which game mode you are currently playing. This is the only source of data we have to see which game modes you guys are playing. And on that note, I think the style switcher mode is the least played one. but that's beside the point. We hope to be carrying this design philosophy a lot more going forward, especially as we transition into the new Crimson HUD 2.0 coming up on the next patch, which is 0.5, hopefully. Thanks a lot, Lenum, for this. Red all counter displays correctly on Vanilla's menus. A lot of you pointed this one out, and it was really bad. Nice to see it fixed. It didn't display. It disappeared on the Vanilla's menus. Menus and UI elements across the board will now utilize the MC3 original fonts more. Again, carrying forward the original art style more and integrating it better within Crimson. We really hope to be improving this further down the line. The new mission results screen looks particularly greatly improved. You guys will like that one. Style rank HUD has been updated with new sprites and animations. The new style rank HUD looks so much better than the old one. It's an unreal glow up, guys. And credits go fully to Lenum on this one. These reflect my original intent with the hub to have this kind of mix of old and new, have them kind of look like neon signs as well. I also took my time to update the animations quite a bit, so it looks extra polished. I'm super happy with this. Looks really, really good, really polished, really new. And new option, choose your new style rank HUD, both sprites and acrylics. A lot of you have been asking for more options regarding HUD options, so I'm glad to be putting this one out. Maybe in the future we can have proper style rank announcer selection as well, to be varying the in-game flair a lot more regarding visuals and sound, which is one of the goals within Crimson. And lock-on display, scale with enemy distance option added. What will happen is that lock-on display size was varying with how close the enemy you were targeting was to the screen. Now it will stay consistent in size regardless of this distance, which is the way it behaves on every DMC game. So now the lock-on display, it will display the same size regardless of the enemy distance from the screen. But really, it kind of looks big when the enemy is distant, and it looks smaller when he's closer, which I think is the correct choice here. But the alternative, if you prefer it, you can still have it as an option, so all good here. And to wrap it all up, you have training, new option added, disable regular enemy attacks. This is a real work in progress option because it will only disable attacks from health enemies. And enemies like chest spawns or soul eaters will still attack, bosses will still attack too, but we hope this option will still be useful to a lot of you, especially with practicing. And hopefully we can get more enemies working with us within this option further down the line. Thank you a lot for Cyan for this implementation. So that's it for the rundown, guys. I really hope you've enjoyed the video. Be sure to like and subscribe if you did, so you can keep up with later updates to this channel. I have more stuff coming out soon. Please let me know what you guys thought of this format. I know a lot of you have been asking for more insight into our development, so let me know. Should I keep doing rundowns like these, or do you find them boring? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, be sure to check out, for instance, public roadmap I've just released, and this contains all of our plans with the mod, and there are plenty of new features coming. A lot to get excited about in the near future. I thank my team for doing an amazing job and enabling me to make this project a dream come true. Also, thanks so much for my patrons. You guys
absolutely rock, and you have been contributing to the project in a big, big way. So a huge shout out to all of you. You guys also enable me to do amazing things so much. Thank you. And of course, thanks to you players who have been enjoying the mods so much. I'm really glad to be fostering such a good and welcoming community. Hope you've enjoyed it, guys, and see you next time. This video was made possible by my patron supporters. On the Sun Devil Turga tier, we have Kibi Rodriguez, Shiranui, Zureda, Wannabe Edgelord, insert text here _ Raheen, Harrix, Rafe Black, Montreal Rice, CDTUG Dante, Mijibri, David Ortega, Basic Vista, Idnex, Sai, Smack the Kid, Maxine Lealy, and in the Double Trigger tier we have MUI, Trevi, Awed the Horde, Finesse Devil, X-Flame Shadow Wolf X, Joker, Gabriel L, JC Davy, Magic Girl with Vodka, AC Rex, Pataria Watanakiri, Gingaman Prime, The Beanie Hat Kid, Grum27, Javi Pena, Third Salt Shaker, Leo, Stylus, Luffy Lover, Pixelized Gamer, 6IX Stars, Valith, Never Know More Than Time, Heavy Metal Ice Cream, Makama, Beans, Diego Cars, William Coring, Yumin Kun, Max, Edzorian Hagen, Billy Bow, Flux 388, Mecha Adil Ahmed, Justin Kalea, Mistraker, Eric, Dank, Super Mecha, Mexo 13, Electronic Freezer, Alu, Kader, Frozen Yeet, Useless Butler, Tetsuo 9999, Eric Harsh, Leo Scar, Jin Mister, XCIX, Waifu Runs, Jalen Harris, Kumi, Angel Bonilla, Larry Rashord Garrett, Ghost, Vult, Cooded Bandit 27, Gordon Flavorman, Leon Calm, Horrorbuff Paddy, and Spiral. A huge thank you to all of you who have been supporting me. You guys are a huge part of the continuation of my projects, so I really appreciate your support.